The moment BTS stepped off the plane onto North Korean soil, a thick veil of disbelief washed over them like a sudden storm. Everything about this place felt surreal, as if they had stumbled into a hidden chapter of history no one was meant to read aloud. Jin's usual calm composure flickered with a hint of unease, his sharp eyes scanning the tightly controlled environment where every building seemed frozen in time, austere concrete walls looming under a gray, oppressive sky that swallowed the sunlight whole. Around them, the air was unnervingly still, an eerie silence punctuated only by the distant clatter of boots and whispered commands from uniformed figures who watched them with unreadable expressions, like shadows lurking just beyond reach. Suga's mind raced, skepticism gnawing at his thoughts. Was this some elaborate trap or a carefully orchestrated spectacle? He clenched his jaw, fingers twitching with restless tension as a knot of conflicting emotions twisted inside him. Excitement mingled with fear, curiosity wrestling with caution. Jungkook, ever the adventurous spirit, leaned forward with eyes wide, a spark of daring igniting within him despite the palpable tension, while RM's natural leadership grounded the group, his voice low and steady as he whispered reassurances, masking the storm of questions swirling behind his calm facade. Amidst them, the enigmatic figure of a North Korean cultural attaché, Kim Min-jun, appeared, an unexpected ally with a measured smile that hinted at secrets unspoken, his presence both comforting and mysterious, bridging the gap between two worlds with an uncanny ease. The streets were strangely empty, yet every corner seemed alive with silent watchers, the weight of history pressing down like a dense fog. As the group moved forward, their breaths shallow, hearts pounding in unison, a silent understanding settled among them. This was no ordinary visit, no simple exchange of pleasantries. They were on the cusp of a story far greater and darker than any stage performance, and though the questions multiplied, the answers remained tantalizingly out of reach, threading a delicate tension between hope and danger, camaraderie and suspicion, the known and the unknowable. As the initial shock began to settle like dust after a storm, BTS found themselves at a crossroads, the heavy silence around them pressing in like a physical weight, and with an unspoken consensus, they chose to confront this bewildering new reality head-on, determined to peel back the layers of secrecy that cloaked their surroundings. RM, ever the strategist, took the lead, quietly urging the group to observe everything with a mix of caution and curiosity, knowing that every word spoken and every gesture exchanged could carry hidden meanings, while Jungkook's restless energy propelled him forward, eager to explore despite the palpable danger that clung to the air like thick fog. Their steps carried them through narrow alleyways and grand, empty squares, places where history felt trapped beneath layers of propaganda and quiet despair, and where the watchful eyes of officials became an invisible chain restricting their movements. Yet, the greatest obstacles emerged not from the walls that hemmed them in but from within. The gnawing uncertainty, the clash between their instinct to trust and the instinct to protect themselves, the fear that every revelation might come at an unthinkable cost. Suga's analytical mind sought patterns and truths hidden beneath rehearsed smiles and rehearsed narratives, but each tentative breakthrough was shadowed by the knowledge that their presence was an anomaly, a ripple in a fragile facade that could shatter at any moment. Amidst this tension, a new figure emerged, a young North Korean journalist named Hae-jin, whose quiet bravery and subtle defiance sparked a fragile alliance. She moved through the city's undercurrents with a knowing glance, offering whispered clues and fleeting moments of warmth that contrasted starkly with the cold surveillance surrounding them. Yet even Hae-jin carried her own burdens, her eyes reflecting the invisible chains of fear and loyalty that bound her, making her both a guide and a puzzle to unravel. As BTS pressed further into the heart of this tightly controlled world, they encountered more than physical barriers. Each encounter forced them to question their assumptions about freedom, identity, and loyalty, stirring conflicts within themselves that threatened to fracture the unity they so desperately needed. Jin wrestled with a growing empathy that challenged his previous beliefs, while V's sensitive nature drew him into moments of quiet reflection, haunted by the faces of those they glimpsed in passing, people trapped in a place where hope was both a currency and a crime. The journey became a labyrinth of shadows and half-truths, where every step forward seemed to reveal more questions than answers, and the line between ally and enemy blurred until it almost disappeared. With every heartbeat, the tension mounted, the stakes rising as the group realized they were not just visitors but participants in a story much larger than themselves. A story woven with danger, courage, and the fragile threads of humanity that dared to resist even in the darkest places. Now standing on the edge of the unknown, with the weight of every step they had taken pressing heavily on their shoulders, BTS and their fragile alliance found themselves caught in the eerie stillness that precedes a storm, the air thick with unspoken fears and trembling hope as they prepared for the final confrontation that would either shatter the invisible chains binding this shadowed land or drown them in silence forever. The group huddled in a dimly lit safe house, far from prying eyes, where whispered plans wove together their disparate strengths. RM's calm, analytical mind dissecting the enemy's patterns, Jin's quiet resilience anchoring them in moments of doubt, Suga's sharp wit devising contingencies for every possible betrayal, Jungkook's restless determination ready to strike when opportunity arose, V's sensitive intuition attuned to the slightest shift in atmosphere, and J-Hope's infectious energy stitching their fractured spirits with threads of courage. They gathered scarce resources, stolen documents, secret messages passed through Hygiene's network, and small but potent tokens of solidarity from those quietly resisting around them, all pieces in a delicate puzzle that might expose the true face of their adversary, the omnipresent regime itself, personified in the cold, calculating figure of General Pak. A man whose iron grip masked an inseparable paranoia born from decades of fear and isolation, whose weakness lay in his rigid overconfidence and fragile ego, vulnerable to cracks in the perfect image he desperately maintained. As they mapped out their strategy, the plan balanced on a razor's edge between subversion and confrontation, using the regime's own surveillance systems against them, sowing seeds of doubt among the ranks, and leveraging Hygiene's insider knowledge to exploit divisions hidden beneath layers of loyalty and fear. Emotionally, each member grappled with the storm within, the anxiety of betrayal, the haunting possibility of failure, and the raw, aching desire to protect those who had become more than just companions. They were a makeshift family forged in fire. In this tense lull before chaos erupted, silence was punctuated by shared glances heavy with meaning, whispered vows that no matter the cost, they would face the coming darkness together, their voices a fragile promise against the cold night. The horizon seemed to hold its breath, waiting as every choice they made now would ripple outward, shifting the balance of power and determining not just their fate but the possibility of a new dawn for those trapped in shadows. This was the moment where courage met consequence, and the story teetered on the edge of transformation, the calm before a storm that could either cleanse or consume everything they held dear. As the tension that had coiled like a spring finally unleashed, BTS and their allies stepped into the crucible where every fear, every hope, every ounce of strength would be tested against the relentless force of General Pak's regime, the air crackling with a charged mixture of dread and determination as the shadowed streets became the stage for a battle far beyond anything they had imagined. A battle not only for their own survival but for the fragile flicker of freedom smoldering beneath the iron grip of oppression. The confrontation unfolded as a fierce dance of wits and willpower, where coded messages turned into weapons, whispered alliances into shields, and every move was shadowed by the threat of betrayal and the weight of sacrifices yet to be made. Jin found himself standing face to face with the regime's enforcers, his calm presence a beacon of quiet resistance even as the walls closed in, while RM and Suga coordinated a desperate infiltration of communication networks, threading through firewalls and lies to expose the cracks in Pak's ironclad control. Jungkook and V moved like ghosts, their nimble agility carrying them through the maze of surveillance and danger, seizing moments of vulnerability to strike at the heart of the regime's power, while J-Hope's unyielding optimism kept the group's spirits alight, even as exhaustion and fear gnawed at their resolve. Hygiene, the fragile yet unbreakable thread linking the underground resistance, risked everything by delivering critical intelligence at the edge of discovery, her loyalty shining through as a poignant reminder of the human cost behind this struggle. The defining moment, a breach in the regime's defenses sparked by RM's cunning plan and Jungkook's daring execution, turned the tide, fracturing the illusion of absolute control and igniting a spark of rebellion that reverberated far beyond their immediate fight. But the victory was not without its cost. Sacrifices were made in whispered goodbyes and silent tears, scars both visible and invisible etched into their souls as they bore witness to the price of freedom. In the aftermath, the world around them began to shift, fragile cracks widening as the regime's facade faltered, and BTS found themselves forever changed. No longer just entertainers but reluctant warriors and symbols of hope in a place where hope had long been forbidden. The journey carved deeper bonds between them, tempered by loss and victory, and left an indelible mark on the lives they touched, inspiring whispers of change and the faintest glimmers of a future where voices once silenced could rise. As they prepared to leave, the weight of their experience settled quietly within, a mixture of pride, sorrow, and cautious optimism, their hearts forever intertwined with a story that transcended borders and boundaries. And as this chapter closes, remember that every journey begins with a single step and every voice matters. So if you've been moved by this tale, please subscribe for more stories that challenge the ordinary and ignite the extraordinary.